it up. Okay. Okay, so does everybody have a handout, right? Everybody's got one?
I don't know how to set old people.
Okay, all right.
She's going to talk about this holistic health.
Oh, I don't know. Okay. All right. So, hello, everyone. My name is Jaziel. I'm a holistic health practitioner. I have my certifications. My first one was in life coaching, such as the specifics of social intelligence and emotional intelligence skills. And then recently, last year, I got my certification in personal training. So I know how to help people with the physical aspects of their health and the mental and more spiritual aspects of their health as well. So I'm just going to go over kind of the basics in these handouts that I gave you guys, so you could follow along or maybe take them home or show them to someone else if they're interested in holistic health. But of course, I'm going to go over everything that I gave you guys. All right.
All right.
So thank you all for participating. Let's start off by saying that. And are you joining the class today? Holistic health.
Holistic medicine.
It's like a wellness class. Okay, all right, well, we're gonna get started. It seems they didn't want to join, but that's fine. So today, I would like to ask you all what you think of when you hear the term holistic health. Does anybody want to answer?
Non-pharmaceutical.
Non-pharmaceutical, that's a good one. Okay.
I'm thinking natural, I don't know.
Natural, just natural living?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully effective.
Effective, natural living. Okay, these are good.
Spirit, body.
Mind, spirit, body, yes. I looked at the first slide. All right, so holistic health, according to the ScienceDirect.com handout, let me just find it again. So holistic health is defined as a healing approach that emphasizes the balance and harmony among the mind, body, and soul, as they said, as well as the individual's relationship with their environment and the universe as the concept of the web of life. So what that means is basically everything that we interact with. So you live more intentionally, you live more in harmony with how you think, how you act, and how you take care of yourself, your hygiene, your nutrition, your hydration levels, your vitamin electrolyte levels, but also making sure that you're getting enough sleep, you're getting enough activities, things that fill your life with a sense of purpose, right? We all need things that direct us, and as we're going to talk about later, there are some things in life that maybe direct us to not live so healthy or not think so healthy, and that could be as simple as a job, a relationship, or an environment that you're living in. It's very detailed, specific things in your life that we're going to go over and look through today, all right? So, it is based on the well-being and the belief that everyone can live in a natural state and achieve this through balance in their life. All right, so moving on to the next handout here. I see that in the first two handouts I put the trackers, so we're gonna actually go through that last. But so the slide after the Science Direct explanation of holistic health talks about the habits for a long and healthy life, and then on the right side it has blue zones for seniors. So on the left, you might not be able to read it, but it says find a purpose, like we were talking about. Find something that helps you feel motivated to get out of bed. Find something that makes you feel expressive. Find something that makes you feel grateful to go throughout the day, right? It could be someone who has a purpose that is related to gardening. So they look forward to gardening. They look forward to being out in the sun. They look forward to planting things, tending to the roots or the herbs, or, if it's just a flower garden. Some people really find a sense of purpose being in tune with nature that way. Other people's sense of purpose is working out and training at the gym really hard, you know. They find their sense of purpose by how they move their muscles, how they are able to stretch their body, how they are able to just go to their fullest potential, right? And then some people's sense of purpose is through community, through maybe volunteering, maybe doing a community activity, maybe something with a local library. It varies, you know, so many different ways to find your purpose in life. Some people, they are very artistic and they feel like their sense of purpose is to paint or to sketch or to draw or to, you know, make a quilt or a photo collage of their family. Some people, their whole sense of purpose is helping their family, helping, you know, their children, grandchildren, wife, husband, spouse, whoever it is. But you know, again, it's going to vary depending on person, what your purpose is, what your individual role in life is that impacts your whole community. Like my sense of purpose is teaching. I'm a full-time college student. I'm studying sociology as my major, environmental science is my minor. But in the meantime, you know, before I get that full-on degree, whether it's a master's or a PhD at whatever level it is, I'm going to be doing community service, teaching workshops, doing things like this where I just tell people, hey, you know, there's different ways to feel more healthy, more well balanced, and, you know, have a sense of purpose in your everyday life. You know, you don't have to wait until it's your birthday to do that thing that you really wanted to do, or to make that thing that you really wanted to make, or wait for a holiday to celebrate something. You could do that every single day, you know, just by being grateful, just by, you know, living a healthy life. So moving on, so it says eating a plant-heavy diet. So that would lead to obviously a healthy life because you're having the correct vitamins, electrolytes, things that help your energy, that help your brain functioning when you know, get older in life, right? So we want to make sure that we're having a balanced, nutritious diet as well. And then a funny thing on here, some people drink wine in moderation as their way to let loose, as their way to relax and feel more balanced. It's not for everyone, but having a glass of wine a night is, you know, medically healthy, you know. Just like having a few pieces of dark chocolate. I'm sorry?
Beer's healthy too, isn't it? A beer.
I wouldn't go that far, because alcohol and wine are different. Alcohol is technically considered a drug because it suppresses your nervous system, just like, you know, smoking something. It's considered a drug because it suppresses your nervous system. So yeah, we'll get into that later. But yeah, and then there's another one on here, surrounding yourself with healthy people, prioritizing your family, finding ways to de-stress and unplug from the day. And then they have a little picture of the cell phone. A lot of us today are constantly online, constantly scrolling, maybe through social media or watching videos or watching the news. And that could also bring a sense of tension or unbalance in your life. And some people, you know, they that information that they watch keeps them up at night and they don't sleep as well, or they might be more irritable after, you know, seeing certain things on TV or hearing certain things on, let's say, Facebook, Instagram, things like that. So you have to make sure that you're unplugging yourself, you know, from a lot of the information and media that we're getting today, you know. It's not a lot of positive news that you're seeing as well. So just make sure you're having everything in moderation, like the wine, right? We just talked about everything in moderation, all right? And then on the right side, how many of you have heard of blue zones before?
Yes.
You've heard of it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great, awesome. So for the rest of the people, blue zones are areas on the map globally that their citizens have lived to 100 years old or more. So like 105, 110, 115. So those places, and there's a documentary about this. It's a series on Netflix, I believe, called Blue Zones. And they documented and interviewed people from Japan, from Greece, from Italy, It's a few of them. There's at least 8 blue zones. I just can't name them all, but it's a really great series. If you guys get a chance, look up blue zones, look up their lifestyle, look up the habits that they have. Some of them eat a very specific diet and do a very strict workout regimen. Like, okay, there's a group of them, for example, in Japan, right? They have a lot of watercress, a lot of cabbage, purple cabbage specifically, and then they do Tai Chi, and they do a lot of walking. So that's their longevity practice, and what helps them decompress and de-stress is there's not a lot of drugs, alcohol, pharmaceuticals, things that they use there. They make sure that they are in community and large family groups, and they just have a lot of get-togethers and gatherings, and they just talk about what's going on in their neighborhood, in their city, and that's how they live longer there. You know, they're de-stressed, they're balanced in their health, balanced in their nutrition, and they live to the hundreds and above, you know, and it's like a good size of the population. I'm not saying it's half the population, but it's at least 1/4 to 1/3 of the population there, right? So it's very interesting stuff. So on the right side, just moving through this here, move naturally. These are the tips. Move naturally, have a sense of purpose, reduce daily stress, stop eating when you're 80% full. Very important. Eat a mostly plant-rich or plant-based diet. Again, drinking wine with some friends, drinking wine with some family members, being a part of a faith-based community. Put your loved ones first, or make sure that they're important and taken care of. And then have a supportive social circle. So again, the things that I just mentioned about the people in Japan in those blue zones, they definitely tick all of the boxes for that. All right. All right. Now moving on to the next slide or handout here. I'm going to go over the holistic benefits of nutrition and then the ranges of health. All right. So on the left-hand side, it shows like a little food diagram, but the most beneficial parts of it is that you will improve your sleep, you will be able to balance your hormone levels, improve your mood, increase your energy levels, increase disease prevention, and you won't get sick as often is what that's basically saying. Strengthen your immune system, helps you to improve your digestive health, and then also on the right side, sustainable weight loss without the need to restrict or deprive yourself. So when you eat more holistically, more balanced in your diet, you don't have to do things like binge eating, right? That's a not holistic way of living. Binge eating, overeating, or people who starve themselves for long periods of time, people who have extreme diets, you know, people who have kind of manic episodes and they just don't do anything, don't eat anything, isolate themselves. That's not holistic health. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure we're having our vitamins, electrolytes, minerals, everything in balance, because that affects your whole body, right? With all these things that we just mentioned, you know, you could have better sleep, better mood, better energy, and just have a better immune system, basically. All right, and then...
Looks like it's mostly fruit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was just saying it's a little, like, a few of them. It's
Yeah.
not all of them,
Yeah.
right, on the infographic. But I do have a handout that shows a few different varieties later on that we're going to go over. Okay, and then on the right side, we have the ranges of health or wellness. So health can be related to your sleep schedule, we just talked about a little bit, your work schedule, if you play in sports, your environmental health, your friends, your diet, your hygiene routine, your health care in general, your nutrition, we just went over, exercise, stress management, family, hobbies, and lifestyle. All of those things are related to your health, right? So think of the hobbies and the things that you do to connect with community and relate that back to your health and well-being. All right? Is there any questions before we move on? We've kind of gone through a few of them already. No questions. Okay, great. So moving on to the next one. This is kind of, again, another ranges of health, but specifically talking about the daily influences and what affects you in your day-to-day life related to your health. So on the left-hand side, we have a handout. It's this one. It's turquoise with the two circles. Everybody's following? So on the left-hand side, today, this is a more accurate description, is that you are split in your personal life and your work life. A lot of people spend a lot more time at work. Some people, have their breakfast, lunch, and dinner at work, working 12-hour shifts or more. Some people, they have a part-time job, take a break, eat their lunch, take a nap, and then go to another job. It depends on how you live your life. Some people are retired. Maybe you guys are retired and might not have to worry about this, but I just put it in here for general knowledge. So think of your psychological work environment. Think of how you communicate to the people in your work environment, right? And how their communication to you might affect your health, right? If you're dealing with coworkers who are supportive, who are team players, who get the job done, who don't, have arguments or disagreements on things. It's just straightforward. You go into work, do the job, and you get out of work, right? And then think of the opposite of that environment, right? There's a lot of stress maybe in the way that people communicate. Coworkers might be arguing. Maybe people are worried about their amount of hours. So they, try to be the best and kiss up to the boss and maybe point out some things that you're not doing at the job correctly. That might take a toll on you in the workplace. So that's a part of the psychological workplace environment, right? Or maybe you're the boss. Maybe you have your own job and you have to think about the logistics of things a little bit more. Maybe you have to think about the cost of things, how that might be stressful. Maybe thinking about advertising and marketing. That's a really big deal nowadays with the amount of technology and, social media that we have. Marketing and advertising is a really big deal. So think about that too. If you have your own business, the different types of psychological impacts of working, either with someone in a group or by yourself, And then there's another part, the physical work environment. Think of a job that you worked that maybe affected your posture or affected your ability to breathe, right? If you work at a warehouse or a factory or a really fast-paced environment, this might be something in the workplace that affects your health, right? Or maybe you're in a desk job in an office and you're just underneath bright lights in a cubicle sitting down for most of the day. Think of how your health might be affected that way, right? Again, with your posture, but also you not being outside as much, not getting as much daylight, that affects the way that your brain works, right? If you don't have enough vitamin D or serotonin, you become depressed over time, right? And then you get into this stress and this not being able to sleep properly, and then everything else is affected, right? That we went over in the health section, right? So one thing can affect every other thing in terms of your health and how you take care of yourself. So the workplace, if you're not retired, but in the workplace, it's really important to pick a job that does not cause stress or inflammation in your body, because everything else is affected. All right? That's also why it's very important that we de-stress and unplug. Take some time for ourselves, have a nice foot soak, right? Put some Epsom salt in your bath, right? Do some stretching, do some deep breathing, some meditation exercise, all right? Being around community, that's very important at the end of the day, right? And then moving on to the other part of the circle, your personal life. So think about how your family might influence you daily. If you are married or have kids, think about your interactions with them, with your husband, with your wife. Think about how you communicate. Think about how you plan your day, maybe. Some people plan their entire day around their children. Like, oh, I have to get up at this time so my kid can have this for lunch. I got to make their lunch. I got to help them get dressed. I have to make sure they have their backpack and their folders, and I sign this off for school. I got to make sure they're doing homework, right? That's someone's day. They have 12 hours planned out for their child or children, however many they have, right? Some people, they plan their day around their husband or their wife. They're like, oh, I gotta get up before them so I can make them some coffee, have some breakfast ready when they wake up, and then I'm gonna ask them what they wanna do, and whatever they wanna do, I'm gonna do it. Some people literally live like that for their partners. And then other people are like, hey, I have this really busy schedule, but I wanna be able to squeeze you in. Let me coordinate with you. Let me talk to you on the phone, after I go on my lunch break, or after I, have this free time in the day, right? So communication.
Every other Wednesday.
Yeah.
Every other Wednesday, dear.
Okay. Yeah, so communication is very important. And, on the opposite side, think of if you're constantly arguing with your family, if you're constantly having disagreements about things, right? Or you have scheduling conflicts where you're not able to see them as much. And then that leads to irritation or a level of, again, irritability because you're not on the same page with them, right? Think of how that might affect your sleep. Think of how that might affect the way that you eat. Some people lose their appetite when they feel that sense of stress or anxiety. So, think about these things. Think about how your family affects you and how it could psychologically impact you as well. All right, and then we have financial and social cultural life. So some people cultural is related to their religion. Some people cultural is literally related to their ethnicity, their background. So this can vary a lot of different answers, right? I like to put an example of the culture wheel, and I spoke about that last time I was here. But think about, say if you're in a specific culture that likes to watch sports games, and you meet once a week to, hey, let's watch football, hockey, baseball. I know they're seasonal, but, just pick one for this example. And think of, okay, all of us are going to come together. We're going to watch baseball on Saturday, for example. And we're going to have this specific food, and we're going to talk about these specific topics, and it's going to bring us all together, right? That may be someone's culture around sports and tailgating, let's say, barbecuing, tailgating, having a cookout. That's their version of culture. That's their version of a social life, right? Other people, they like to, a part of their culture is to come together in a more religious setting. Let's say, okay, I know a lot of people meet on Sundays, so they say, oh, let's go to temple, let's go to church. And then afterwards, let's have a study session at someone's house, and let's talk about, the things we read, the things we learned about during our session on Sunday. And that's some people's way to have that cultural, social impact, And then other people, they just have hobbies and interests. Like some people, they like to bake cakes together. And they say, okay, let's have 5 friends. We're going to have, some baked goods or some tea or, something like that specifically related to food and the culture behind making food, cooking food, being together in that setting, So different strokes for different folks, right? But think of how culture and social impact, influences your personal life. And then with financial, it's also pretty straightforward. Think about the way that you view money. Think about, do you view money in a way that is healthy, or do you view money in a way that's scarce, that you need to work really, really, really hard for money? These different beliefs and different habits that we have around finances can really impact our foundation. On the opposite, non-holistic side, think about someone who spends their money all the time, who doesn't save, who maybe gambles their money, who maybe makes bad investments, let's just say, with their money. That could also impact your personal life a lot, So we got to be very conscious of the way that we are spending our personal time and, our resources as well. And then physical environment, that's also pretty straightforward. But think of the way that your house is set up, right? Because we just talked about the work environment a lot. Think about the way your house is set up. Think about, is it organized? Do you have, the stuff in the kitchen all set out in drawers or in shelves? Or do you have it kind of messy and the dishes in the sink and the floor is dirty? Think of how that physical environment could affect your health, could lead to more stress, higher levels of cortisol, right? That affects your diet, your sleep, everything. If you walk into a room and it's messy, hey, you're automatically stressed out, right? I don't know if everybody's like that or if they're like neat freaks or, there's a certain range in the middle there for sure. But think about your bedroom, how you organize your bedroom. Do you have things on the floor? Do you have things hung up neatly? Do you have things, in your dresser drawers, on shelves, on display, or do you have things just laid out everywhere, piled up, trash everywhere, right? That definitely affects your health, So you got to think about the physical things in your environment, and if you're organized, put together, you know where everything is versus it's dirty, it's crowded, it's piled up. Those things can also affect your mental health and your ability to process things in your day to day.
Mental health.
I'm sorry?
How does that affect your mental health?
So, going back to the example of having a dirty room or a dirty kitchen, right? You having higher levels of anxiety leads to higher levels of cortisol.
Okay, that's good enough.
So,
Okay.
The reason I ask that, you're right about that, because
okay.
I have no program. I just throw my keys everywhere, and then when I wanna go somewhere, I gotta try to find them. Then
Yeah.
it pisses me
Right.
off. Then that's messing with my head.
Right.
I know, right?
And well, the other thing I was going to say, other than the higher levels of cortisol, it also wastes your time.
Yeah.
Because if you're sitting there, like you just said, looking for your keys, right? But think about another important example, like, oh, I need a document to turn in to mail off somewhere because it's a deadline, right? Think about that. Think about, okay, maybe you didn't find that paper on the day of, so you go to your house in the morning, you wake up, go through your day, and then you're like, okay, let me go, oh, where's the paper? And then you spend an hour looking for it, and of course you're stressed out even more because you've wasted time instead of preparing beforehand. So that's also another way that it could affect your mental health because you're feeling rushed. That's nervous system imbalance going into fight or flight mode, right? So that affects your mental health as well. If you're on edge, if you're constantly stressed out, if you're worried, simply because you're not organized, right?
I'm not organized.
Well, that's just an example, but don't be too hard on yourself. These are just examples of getting your mind to think like, okay, how do I live day to day? How do I organize myself? How do I use my resources? Right?
Yeah.
Okay, because all this daily influence is on our life.
It's like my TV control. I always try to put it down in the same place so I know where it's at, but inevitably, I will set it down wherever I happen to be standing at the time I need to turn to do something. And then I put it down.
Oh.
And then we made the way to go tonight.
You're gonna think I'm crazy when I tell you this. Get your GoPro,
What's wrong with people?
put some
That
on
kinda
the
messes my-
arm of the chair,
Mm-hmm.
put some on the back of the remote.
Yeah, like some tape over it so you can see like yellow tape. Here's the remote.
Oh, yeah.
Or yellow tape. Here's the keys on the hook. So you don't lose things.
Actually, more often than not, my husband is hitting the remote locator on the dish.
I don't know what to say about your husband. I'm sorry.
It happens. I have to do the same thing.
Okay.
And the phone.
Because of the,
The phone, yeah, I forgot my phone too.
I gotta call it from I gotta call my cell phone from the home phone.
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah,
And there's a beeper on the home phone to find different.
we've done that too.
Okay, so we're gonna move on now.
Okay.
I love the participation though. It's really great to think about these things, get the ball rolling, right? So on the right side of the paper though, these are some more influences. So it's just a few spheres of influence. So of course we talked about family, we talked about business, work environment, but also think about your education level and how that influences how you see the world, how you communicate with people. The more educated you are, the more vocabulary words you have, the better your communication style is normally speaking, right? Versus someone who might have just gone to high school. It's a very big difference, right? We know this today. Yeah. And then think about how the way you express yourself, the arts that you use. We talked about earlier quilting, photography a little bit, painting, sketching. Some people that's a daily influence for them. That takes a lot of time to do that, right? And then think about how the government influences you. We talked about the news, talked about social media, talked about a little bit there, but just think about that briefly. Think about what's going on today, right? How that might influence you or not influence you. Some people rather not go into politics. Some people would rather say, I want to leave that off the table when we have our family dinners. Don't talk about politics. Or, don't talk about politics in the workplace. That's a rule everywhere now because some people just bring up one sentence and it turns into a whole argument, and then the whole productive day goes away, right? And then think about religion, right? We talked about that a little bit earlier. Some people, that's their culture, that's their socializing, that's the thing they do maybe once or twice a week, maybe. But that's something that helps them to be influenced in a positive way, right? So just think about all these influences. We're influenced by a lot of things. Not just our family, not just our education, not just our job. It's everything around us, right? Our whole community, right? Okay, so moving on. I feel like we've covered that pretty in depth at this point. Make sure. Hold on. So it should be this blue holistic health treatment graphic here. I'm going to read it a little bit and go through this because like we just went over the influences. These are things that could help you be treated or decompress or find that balance, right? So on the left-hand side above the graphic, we have holistic treatment is a form of treatment that focuses on treating the whole person rather than something that is just a disorder. In medical terms, a disorder or a disease, right? So that could be a mental or physical thing, right? So you have to look at the whole individual, all the things that impact them. Excuse me. So the way holistic treatment treats the whole person is by identifying and improving on any physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual issues that an individual has within their body, mind, or soul. That seems pretty vague, so we're going to go through these examples. So a way that you could holistically treat mental health is by doing cardio, going to the gym, right? Pumping iron. Those things help balance your left and right hemispheres of your brain. Very important, right? And those things also help you to regulate your hormones and your energy levels. When you're constantly working out, moving your body, going to the gym, or practicing things like cardio and yoga practices, you find yourself to be less anxious, more stable in your mind and in your thinking, and you make more rational choices because, again, your brain is not in fight or flight mode. You're not in that parasympathetic nervous system. You're in the sympathetic nervous system that rests, digest, reflect, all right? Another way to treat this is changing your environment. So some people walks in nature, watch the sunset and sunrise, and that's good enough for them. Some people, they ground outside by walking in forest, going into lakes or rivers, going hiking, like we have Mount Scott, we have Medicine Park, we have all these beautiful public places in Oklahoma that you can go to and de-stress. And then another one for holistic mental health treatment is doing massages. So some people doing massages or acupuncture therapy, stretch therapy as well, where someone physically like moves your body and positions you correctly in terms of anatomical position. Those things can help someone to decompress and release stress as well. And then we have mindful, holistic mental health treatments in meditation and breathing exercises. So an example of a breathing exercise, I'm sure we've all heard of deep breathing, right? But another one is called box breathing, and it is the method of breathing in for 3 seconds, holding for 3 seconds, exhaling for 3 seconds, and then pausing again for 3 seconds. And a lot of times people do this to just feel like they're back in their body, they're back in the present moment, right? That is another way to calm down your parasympathetic nervous system, get out of that fight, flight, freeze, right? Doing the box breathing method, or they have the 1-2 breathing method where it's you do 2 short breaths, and that's to help you get out of maybe an angry, reactive, an irritative state of mind. You know, you're making sure you're getting enough oxygen going to your brain so that things can flow and process, all right? So those are 2 deep breathing exercises as well. But another one, if you are maybe feeling more sad or more
Yeah, it is good.
grieving, maybe another way to describe it, but
That now.
doing longer exhales for 20 to 30 seconds can help you get back in your body and just relax. It's also a way to stop intrusive thinking. So you want to, take a nice deep breath, right, and then hold it, and then breathe out for 20 seconds. So I'll do another demonstration. So. The last 5 seconds, I didn't breathe deeply enough. But you want to try to get to 15 to 20 seconds. So you want to take a deep breath in from your diaphragm and make sure you're releasing all the way. Your stomach is empty. So. It's empty. You can barely breathe. But that's the point. You want to reset your mind. You want to reset your sympathetic nervous system. All right? So these are exercises that you could do, of course, anytime, any place, completely free. Don't have to do anything extra. You just breathing in and out. But it's the intention and the timing of how you're doing these breathing, inhaling, exhaling that makes a difference mentally, emotionally even, right? Okay, and then meditation. So there are different forms of meditation. If you guys have not heard, yoga is a form of meditation because you're deep breathing and exhaling while you're doing the different poses. So it's impacting your body, of course, but also your mind. So a lot of people do yoga, again, as a way to decompress, but as a way to treat for anxiety or depression at times as well. I know that has helped me a lot when I've been, stressed out from the day of college, of classes. I live on campus, so a lot of going to different buildings, talking to different offices, professors, things like that. And I like to play racquetball at the gym. And then after that, I do yoga and some intuitive limbering is what it's called. But it's just basically stretching and making sure there's no tension in the body anymore. So that's my physical meditation practice, but it helps emotionally and mentally as well. A different form of meditation is sound therapy. So, over here. And if you guys have seen videos on YouTube, it's very popular that people play sound bowls or singing bowls before they go to sleep to help them calm down, right? I do that a lot too. Whenever I have a busy day, a stressful day, I listen to sound bowls, and they all have different frequencies that they tune into different parts of the body. So like there's a 432 hertz one that helps you relax and feel more grounded. There's a 528 hertz singing bowl that helps you feel more compassion, more self-love, be able to receive love, things like that. So there are very specific things in sound meditation and sound therapy that some people use today. Again, it's a lot more popular online. Some people have made a whole career out of sound therapy. They have retreats, and then they just bring these big singing bowls, and they're like, okay, $50 a ticket for the weekend. It's a big deal right now. If you haven't seen it, highly encourage you to. But sound therapy could also be In terms of EMDR therapy, how they have rapid eye movement, they also play noises and specific frequencies while you're doing that therapy, and it helps to balance the left and the right side of your brain, that hemisync that we talked about earlier. And that is also another way to get rid of trauma and to balance out the emotional distress that you're feeling. So they do these in different parts of therapy for holistic treatment. And, you know, I'm sure if you've ever had a breakup or had a disappointment and you listen to a sad song, hey, that's sound therapy, because you got that emotion out and it's, you know, processed as you listen to the song. Maybe you listen to a song that was like, helped you feel really pumped up and in the mood and to start your day on a confident note. You know, some people listen to music to feel happy, to feel more at peace, more at joy, you know, to get that confidence boost before they start their day. Sound therapy could also be a form of affirmations, saying affirmations when you wake up or when, you know, while you're getting ready to start your day. Just listening to yourself affirm yourself helps you to think more positively, to think more grateful versus more complaining, anxious, worried. So there's different types of sound therapy that you could use, different tools, different methods. But again, there's, you know, different forms of therapy here. We also have talk therapy. That's probably the most known form of holistic treatment. You know, someone who might have anger issues, go to anger management therapy, right? Someone who has issues with grief or loss in their life and they're like, I can't move on from this. I'm a different person after this happened and I can't get over this grief or I can't get over this loss. You know, if it's a family member, a pet, a job, just an event in their life, you know, it can really change and shape the way the person lives day to day, right? I'm sure we all could think of something that affected us and impacted us that we noticed we changed after that event happened or after that loss happened in our life, you know. So talk therapy, CBT therapy is the most popular form of therapy they give for people of all ages, young people who, you know, maybe on Medicaid, just getting on health care, they have talk therapy. People who have therapy from their jobs, you know, oh, go see a talk therapist, go see a psychotherapist for what you're dealing with. Like at Walmart, I know they have free therapy if you're part-time or full-time, because that job is so darn stressful, dealing with, you know, just the public and having to constantly stock and move things around because it's Walmart, it's busy, everybody shops there, right? Another one, I believe FedEx, or it was a specific mail-related company, but they do have free talk therapy for their employees. So some, you know, work environments, they do care about that stress and decompressing, and they help their employees to do better and to work better by having that option, like with medical coverage, dental coverage. They also have the emotional, mental coverage with that therapy. So we are progressing today. I'm very happy, you know, that these things are available when I'm around, because I know when my grandpa was around, he passed away last year, but he didn't have a lot of things that I have today. So I'm very fortunate that we have progressed to get to understanding mental health. That mental health is not a stigma, you know, where you could say, hey, I'm not feeling okay, you know, to your boss and ask to take a day off of work. You know, or hey, I'm not feeling okay to your mom or your dad, and be able to talk to them about your emotions and the things that you're really going through instead of hiding it from them, you know. And there's also a lot of things related to identity problems where people feel like they can't express themselves fully, you know. That leads to a sense of public identity and personal identity that they feel they have to switch back and forth, you know. So there's some really deep things that can go into being able to express yourself and talk about your feelings and what you're going through versus not being able to. And we see that today, that we've made a lot of progress. So I just wanted to touch on that. And then lastly, here on the right, we have holistic health mental treatment as prayer. So we talked about religion in a cultural sense and in a social sense, but some people, their way to calm themselves and de-stress, decompress, however you want to say it, is simply by going to church, going to mosque, going to their temple, going to, wherever they practice their religion. Some people don't even go publicly to practice their religion. Some people would rather enclosed, in the comfort of their home, behind closed doors, celebrate their faith and connect with the Creator that way. So if it works for you, it works for you, right? If all of these work for you, great. If one of these works for you, great. But it's about, knowing what tools to use in your tool belt. Yes?
What works for you?
Oh, for me, you're saying?
No. What works for you?
Yeah, what works for you?
Yeah, so I do all of these. So that's why I'm like, if you want to use all of them, perfect. But I do a lot of affirmations. I do music therapy. I do have a talk therapist because Cameron University has something called Timely Care. So we have a wellness center where you can see someone in person, or Timely Care is virtual over the phone. So that works better with my schedule. But I definitely utilize all the resources I have. I spoke a little bit about the sound bowls.
Is there some scientific, that shows that the frequency of those bells really do this? I mean, there's certain, it's not just theory, but so they've actually shown scientifically that those different frequencies affect your brain that way?
Yes,
Is that
so
interesting?
yes, it is interesting, absolutely. So the sound bowls, in different cultures, they use things like flutes in some cultures. So they have flutes like the ocarina or the double pan flute that have specific frequencies that help us calm down.
Yeah, I like certain music, I just didn't know that those particular frequencies you said would have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
I didn't know that would actually.
Yeah, I didn't put a handout of it because some people, they don't believe that. But there are specific frequencies that work for different parts of your organs. Like there's one for your kidney, one for your liver, one for your heart, one for your eyes, one for your teeth, your bones, your legs. Like there's so many different things that you could look up online, but the majority of them will say this specific frequency does this, this, and that. Like I talked about the 528 hertz. That's about opening your heart, having compassion, having self-love. And you can listen to it just at night while you're sleeping, and you wake up and you notice the difference. So just like, it's the same concept of a frequency like the Wi-Fi and telephone frequency. It channels through electricity.
Right.
So that's how it reaches us, through our phones, through the microphone that I'm using, the speaker, but it's also a sound frequency that travels to us that we either hear or we feel because we are electromagnetic for majority of our body. So what happens when your brain sends a signal to an organ? It has to travel through electricity and then go over water to reach that part of your body, right? That's how your heart can connect to your muscle in your thigh or your hip, because it's traveling over water and electricity. It's a current that it sends it through. The same thing with music.
I guess you
Yes.
have to order those, you can get those locally, those little things.
The little thing. I'm
Those
sorry.
little things,
The bell.
the tuning.
Oh, yes. This sound bowl. Yes, I bought it online, but they do have some like in.
That one does all the frequencies?
No, this is specifically for grounding, 432 hertz. So,
Curious Goods.
oh yeah, I think they might have something. I haven't looked
They
there.
would.
Okay. So they said Curious Goods,
Yeah,
that store
nice.
has them. I know that I bought this on Walmart online. So they have specific vendors that also sell like sound bowls and tuning forks. That's another thing that people use. But it's
I do
about the
some
sound.
humming at night, just to tone, kind of relax me.
You said, I'm sorry?
A tone.
Oh, humming?
Yeah, just not a tune, just like.
Yeah.
Oh,
Some
okay.
tune might, that tone might
Well,
relax
even
me.
the fan, I know my fan makes a certain.
Like white noise?
And I can, I have to be relaxed.
Well, humming also helps you activate your vagus nerve. So humming or doing singing to yourself helps you calm down. That's also something where people on the spectrum, on the autism spectrum, they do things called stimming, and a lot of times they will rock back and forth, or they will hum to themselves to activate that vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is
So
basically you could
rock
access
to the
it.
tune, to the tone,
I'm sorry.
you rock to the tone.
No, I was just giving an example of what people on the spectrum do,
Oh,
like to
spectrum,
activate their vagus nerve. But also, you could use things like another holistic health treatment is to use cold temperature, like if you're in a cold shower, right?
Yeah.
That helps you wake up. That helps your skin depuff and tighten. Versus if you're in a warm, hot shower, it helps you relax. It softens your skin. It helps you get a little sleepier. Your muscles might, feel a little bit more stretched out versus that tight coldness, right? And then again, with if you're in a fight, flight, freeze, that parasympathetic nervous system, you could put a cold compress or an ice pack on the back of your neck, and that helps you calm down and activate that sympathetic nervous system. Yes, go ahead.
Where do you get the music for music therapy? I've been wanting it for years.
Are you saying a specific type of
Yeah,
frequency or
music
emotion?
Therapy, for illnesses or psychological. I used to have schizoaffective disorder, probably still do. Anyway, I was wanting music therapy years ago.
Mhm.
And I know they teach at different universities, but, convince anybody.
I think those are really expensive. I'll be honest, like a music therapist, like an art therapist or a
Yeah.
play therapist. There are specific types of psychiatrists that do that, but they all have to have a master's degree, and then they charge a lot of money.
Change a lot of money
So
to
I
get
would
your therapy.
Yeah, so I would honestly just look up stuff online,
Yeah.
like the EMDR therapy. They have a specific. I would be able to show you if I wasn't filming, but they have specific frequencies that help called bilateral stimulation. So that's a form of music therapy if you would like to look that up. And bilateral stimulation helps you to balance that left and right part of your brain again, very important that you have that emotional regulation and physical mobility and dexterity, right? You're able to process things accurately, you have a certain level of importance of tasks, right? You're not going off from 0 to 100 in an anxious, fearful state of mind. You're going in a calm, regulated, relaxed manner throughout your day. So bilateral stimulation, I would definitely look that up. They have a lot of different frequencies that you can use. But if you look up solfeggio frequencies, that's also another form of
What is
music
that?
therapy.
Solfeggio.
SOLFEGGIO, solfeggio frequency. So those two are forms of music therapy. Some people may just call it like frequency therapy because of the certain
Music
frequencies.
thing where it asks you if you want to listen to a certain kind of music for like at night and stuff. But it has, I can't remember what it's called because I don't, my Wi-Fi is not working right now.
Oh.
But I can't remember what it was, but they had a couple of different options to listen to music, just
Yeah.
like sounds like the rain, like raining and.
Yeah, I was gonna say they have some for like ocean waves crashing on the shore. They have some for rain, thunderstorms that help people go to sleep. They have some for wind chimes or koshi bells. Those are also a form of music therapy that some people like to utilize. I utilize that when I'm in the shower. It helps me decompress as well. But again, sometimes at night I just listen to something that helps me with the specific frequencies. So. Yeah. Are there any other questions though? No? Okay. So we're going to move on to the last two slides here. So I put examples of the personal training, nutrition, daily health tracker. So it's basically a chart, but it's in black and white over here. So these are just examples of how to do a food diary or food journals. And it shows, okay, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, what did I have on Monday, And then it shows if you want to track your calories, you can do so. Some people track their macros and micronutrients. Some people track their electrolytes, vitamins intake. If they're taking a medication or something, they have to track that daily. And then, how much water did you drink today? Are you hydrated properly? That's great. That's a fantastic. 2 liters of water a day is the healthy range, especially in the summer. You definitely want to make sure you're drinking that 2 liters or more a day. All right. So this is just an example on the left, and then on the right we have a more detailed, more visual example of this instead of just writing things down. Potentially, we have something on the top. I know it's hard to read. I'm sorry. I apologize. But just to go through it quickly, someone likes to track their diet with food journaling and their sleep quality. And so they have stuff for the macros, the proteins, the carbs, the healthy fats, the fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, and then things like fermented foods and beans and legumes. Excuse me. And then we have things underneath that for fluids as well, and then they put the moods that they were in. So like on Monday, like we just talked about feelings, emotions, moods, getting maybe stuck in a mood or stuck in a certain emotion. So they track that. Like, okay, Monday I was feeling a little cranky. On Tuesday I was feeling a little bit better. On Wednesday, on Wednesday they might have felt, a little bit anxious. On Thursday they might have felt more happy. Sometimes people are up and down throughout the day. They feel every emotion. They feel happy in the morning, sad in the afternoon, angry at night, and then going back to happy before they go to sleep. So it just depends on how you are able to process and handle your emotions, right? And then they have, of course, exercise and wellness. Do they do cardio, weight training, walking, stretching, things like that? So it's just an example of how you could track your health, with nutrition and exercise fluids. And then the last handout I have here, it's for Life Coaching Daily Mental Health Tracker. So again, on the left, we have more of a written kind of journaling process of tracking. So they have it for the date and then the day of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then they have an intention. So today they intend to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Some people may say, I intend, like we're talking about, to mail that important letter, or to go to the store to buy that thing, or I intend to go to this cookout and watch the sports game, right? Like we were talking about before. What intention do they start their day with, right? And then they have, again, their feelings. How did they feel throughout the day? And then what their affirmations were. We talked about that a little bit, starting their day or getting ready with affirmations to remind themselves. And then something they were grateful for today. And then they track their sleep, their exercise, their meals or snacks they had. And then they wrote the best part of their day was blank. And then the worst part of their day was blank. And then if someone did something nice for them or to help them during the day, they also wrote that down. And then their energy levels as well on a scale from 1 to 5. Excuse me. And if they were stressed out on a scale from 1 to 5. And then on the right side, they have a daily check-in, daily tracker with a little bit more silly, kind of comical tracking. But they put, okay, things that made me happy, things that made me sad, things that made me mad. What was the best moment and worst moment of today? What are some things I'm proud of today, or things that I did that boosted my mood today, for example? Things that I'm thankful for. Again, what moods they were in that day. And they, instead of writing it out, they put it for a smiley face or a frowny face or whatever, So these are just a few examples of, things that you could do to help yourself out and kind of, make it fun, but also make sure you're intentional in tracking what's going on in your day-to-day life. And these are all ways to holistically be healthy in mind, body, and soul. All right, so that's it.
Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Any questions, comments, anything else?
I have a question.
Yes.
What can I do with the mental problem?
A what?
You said a mental problem? Well, that's a very broad question. Do you want to be more specific?
Yes, I go check my brain. I go see doctor.
Okay. Did you see a neuroscientist?
But sometimes I feel it, but they say, no.
I would say book a session with me, and then we could, work through it a little bit more. But I would have these same,
Yeah, they told me exercise.
yeah, because I would have the same things we went over. I would ask you, like, okay, how much water are you intaking? Are you having enough electrolytes? Do you have enough magnesium and iron that you're taking in a day? Right? Because that affects the way that your brain processes things. And we talked about having a plant-rich, diverse diet because those are rich in iron, magnesium, folate, which help the brain function properly. Just like exercise helps the brain balance left and right hemisphere. All of these things play a part, and they are very important when done together. And also, I would ask you, how do you express your emotions? Because some people may have a block mentally because they don't feel like they can express themselves fully, right? We talked about, are you able to express yourself with your family, with your loved ones, like with your children, your husband, your coworker, or your friend, or your neighbor? Are you able to express the things that bother you, or do you kind of keep it in and let that, build up? So the things we went over, I would just simply say go over them and fill them out on your own time and see maybe what's blocking those parts of wellness. Like, do you have enough sunlight? Do you have enough exercise? Do you have enough of that balanced diet, right? Do you have a culture, and do you have something that helps you socially? Because we are very social creatures. We are not meant to live alone. We are not meant to do anything alone, right? Even though things are constantly speeding up in society with technology, with all the spread of information, with, so many things we have going on. But we are very social creatures. So if we are isolated, if we're not taking care of ourselves, and if we don't feel like we're socially included, like recognized by other people, right? Then it tends to affect our brain and can lead to mental problems as well. So I would ask, that you look through these things and ask yourself, these questions. Did that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like to be quiet sometimes. Quiet.
Quiet is good, yeah. Meditation, quiet time, yeah. That's also good, absolutely. De-stress.